back to the Kyle Petty Show. I am your host, Kyle Petty, and this time I am joined by a very special guest. He is the artistic director at Bay Street Theater over in Sag Harbor, and he is also directing their upcoming production of Dear Evan Hansen, running from August 4th to August 29th. I am joined today by the amazing Scott Schwartz. So welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Hey, Kyle, I'm thrilled to be here.
Thank you so much for making the time. Thank you. So people who are unfamiliar with you, introduce yourself for us. Imagine this is like your first table read and you're meeting your cast for the first time. What things would you want
Okay.
them to know about you?
Sure. Well,
Yeah.
again, my name's Scott Schwartz. I'm the artistic director at Bay Street Theater out in Sag Harbor in the beautiful Hamptons. We've been having a
Mhm.
fantastic season this summer. And I'm the director of Dear Evan Hansen, which is the last musical production of the summer. We run basically the whole month of August. But I'm also a freelance director. I work all around the world. I've directed on Broadway, off Broadway, all around America and in Europe and London and Asia. Actually, right now I'm working a lot with companies in Japan and also an amazing
Hmm.
company in Korea. So I get around.
Man, you're busy. I love that. Good for you. So tell us some things about Dear Evan Hansen, right? This is opening next week. There at Bay Street. Tell us some things about the show.
Well, of course, it opened in, I believe it was 2015 or 16 on Broadway,
Mhm.
was a smash hit. It has this amazing pop rock score by Pasek and Paul, won the Tony Award for Best Score,
Mhm.
Best Book, Best Musical. But what I love about the show and why I wanted to do it at Bay Street, beyond just that it's a great, great show, is that it's very emotionally complicated and it's very, very intimate. It's about social anxiety. It's about young people in high school struggling with how to fit in and struggling with their own emotions. It's about their parents. I'm now their parents' age, but it's about their parents trying to connect with them and how we connect or how we miss each other in the contemporary world, in life, but also on social media. And I thought to do that show in Bay Street's intimate 299-seat theater when you're really close to the actors and you can see the feelings in their eyes, you can see the smallest gestures, that it would be an amazing way to experience this great musical.
Awesome. Now, it's been said that your production is like a reimagined version of what people saw on Broadway. What would you say makes yours different from what audiences may have seen there?
Well, it's definitely a new production. I saw the
Hmm.
Broadway production and I loved it and I cried and I thought it was really amazing. I saw it with the original cast, Ben Platt. Um, but this production, I think it's really the intimacy that makes it so different. We're a 299 seat thrust theater, which, means that the audience kind of wraps around the stage
Yeah.
on three sides. So no matter where you're sitting, you're incredibly close to the action. Also, when the show was originally done on Broadway, it was, the very first time a musical had ever really explored sort of contemporary social media. And it's very well known for bringing all this incredible kind of video technology to the stage and sort of bringing social media to the stage. We, of course, still do that because that's an important part of the story. But in a way, this production has chosen to focus more on the people and less on the technology. So we're really, really connecting to the eight characters. And then the social media, what I've been saying is it kind of becomes another character in the show. The actions of the musical affect social media, and the actions of social media in the show affect the characters, but it's like a ninth character rather than it being kind of quite as much the focus of the production.
I'm excited about that because I actually don't know anything about Dear Evan Hansen. I heard one
Mm.
song, right? I only heard one song, and just knowing what that space is at Bay Street, I'm very excited to see how you used the video there too.
And,
Um,
and there will be really
yeah,
cool video. We have this wonderful woman, Camila Tassi, who designed our video for the show, and
excellent.
it's pretty awesome, I have to say. But again, I think that the point of this production is to really pull the focus into the heart, into the eyes, into the spirit of the actors.
I like that. So during this process, what would you say was your most challenging part of that, like in the intimacy of it?
Well, that's such a good question. I mean, I had a wonderful time working on the show. It's a
Mhm.
phenomenal cast. We shared lots of feelings. We shared lots of stuff about our pasts, and got very, very close. I think that maybe the most challenging part was calibrating again how simply we could play things, how intimately we could play things, how small the choices could be and still register. And funnily enough, this is sort of the opposite of what you normally think of in a musical. And I direct a lot of musicals. The more intimate, the more internal, the better in this production. That somehow that gave it more size and more emotional impact. And that's been really fascinating. It almost feels, more like a play or, almost like a movie in that way.
Yeah. So when you picked this show for the season, what was it about that said, "Ooh, you know what? I have to direct this one. This one needs to be mine."
Well, I have to confess something. This was a show that was offered to me at another
Oh.
theater. There is a wonderful company called ACT of Connecticut. They're based, up in Ridgefield, Connecticut. It's not far from where I grew up, actually. And I've been talking to them over many years about potentially partnering with Bay Street because they're a proscenium theater, but we have similar sized houses. We have sort of
Mhm.
similar aesthetics, and I knew the artistic director there and managing director there, and they're terrific. And so we've been talking about doing a partnership. And I had also said, hey, listen, I grew up near there. It'd be fun to direct near, up there. Have some of my old pals come and see my work. And so they actually offered me the show before it was programmed at Bay Street. I
Oh.
loved Dear Evan Hansen on Broadway. It was not a show that I had been thinking at that time about directing, but as soon as they mentioned it, I was like, this feels exactly right to me. This feels like the kind of musical I like to work on. I like to
Yeah.
work on things with depth and complexity and humanity, where you can really dig into the characters and treat the characters as real people as opposed to sort of archetypes. And so I immediately said yes. And we talked about it. I got very excited about it. And then I was putting together my season at Bay Street, and two of the three shows were already selected. And I was thinking, I really want to do something very contemporary for the last show. The other two shows were both set in periods, different periods, and they were great. We were very proud of them. But I was like, I want to do something that's now. I want to do something that's really young. I want to do something that's for our younger audience, teenagers, 20 somethings, 30 somethings, as well as our regular theater going audience. What would be good for that? And something, frankly, that had a really great kind of pop rock score. And I was like, well, wait a minute. I'm already directing Dear Evan Hansen. What about Dear Evan Hansen? Um, and that's how it came about. But I think it is really a great compliment to our season. I think for audience members who have come to the other two shows, each show has been very unique and very individual, but they've all been kind of intimate in their own way. And I hope this will be like the cherry on top of the season.
I think it will be. I can't wait to see it. Tell me a little bit more about your process. You mentioned in there that the cast came together, you came together with them, and you were sharing a lot of different things. What does that process look like? Like, did we set time aside to like, let's sit down and have story time and let's talk about things, or did things just kind of naturally come about?
It's a little bit of both,
Mm.
actually. On my process does change dependent on the show. If I'm doing a really great big show, that has tons and tons of scenery or effects or whatever, that's one thing. If I'm doing a small play, that's another. But on a show like this, where it's eight actors, it has a lot of scenes, and there's a lot that goes on, and a lot of complicated physical moments in the show, but it's still the thing that's most important about the show is the emotional truth and the vulnerability and the emotional complexity. And so we do a lot of table work. The very first thing we did on the first day, well, we dove in and started learning music, of course. And because there's a lot of music to learn. And I talked about the show and I talked about what the production, was going to look like and feel like, or what I was hoping it would. Um, but then we dove in, we read through the script, but only as text. It was like we were reading a Shakespeare play. So they read the lyrics as text. And
Mm.
then we started talking about it and we started talking about the scenes and the lines and the different moments and spent a few days just talking through the show. And as we did that, it's called table work. It's as we did that, we revealed things about ourselves and our own history. Um, I think I don't know if it was clinical or not, but when I was young, I think I dealt with some social anxiety when I was in school. And so sort of doing a show about that felt very personal to me. I'm glad to say I think I've managed that or overcome that, but it was definitely a part of my life when I was young. And I think a lot of people in the cast had experienced that. And so
Yeah.
we got to really share things about ourselves. And then when we got through that part of the process, we did another read through, sing through, where we sang it with the music. This was all around a table. We weren't doing staging yet. And it was just so vivid and so rich because everyone was bringing all those conversations and all of themselves to the table. And then we dove in with staging, but even then, while we were working on individual scenes, we would talk about them, we would make discoveries about the characters, we would try things. So it was a very open process, and I think a very um, uh, hopefully honest process, and a process that encouraged us to all share a lot. And listen, that's one of the things I love about theater, and I
Yeah.
love working in the theater, now for my whole adult life.
Mhm.
It is an opportunity to connect with people. It's an opportunity to connect with an audience in a way that you can't in any other way. You can't do it through a screen because
Right.
there is
Mhm.
breath, there is energy that you just can only get when you're live. But I
Yeah.
also feel it's an opportunity to connect with my fellow artists and my fellow creators and to become this little family. And we really did become a little family.
I find that to be very exciting, right? Because that is exactly the magic of theater, right? It's about connecting with each other. It's about finding a little bit of yourself in a character and being able to bring that forward to the audience and make them feel something too. And if
Yeah,
everyone's really being honest with each other, there isn't an audience member that would not be able to identify with feeling some kind of social anxiety at some point,
sure.
feeling some kind of insecurity or something, right? So, yeah, it sounds like there should be something there for everybody.
I
It's
think
good.
so. But, the
Yeah.
other thing that I love about this show is it goes into some tough places. It goes into some dark places. And there's some events that happen, and particularly with the sort of precipitating event of the whole show, which I'm not going to say what it is so
Mhm.
people can be surprised. But,
Right.
it's serious stuff. But the show is also quite hopeful. I think in the end that through our struggles, we can connect, we can grow, we can have joy. And I think the show also explores that. So yes, it's like what they used to call in the old days a three hanky show. It'll definitely jerk those tears. It's very, very
Yeah.
moving, but it's also very enlivening and very hopeful. And there is humor in it. There's some scenes and moments which are really quite funny as well.
Yeah. Wonderful. I can't wait to see this. I can't wait. Thinking of celebrating things and just finding some hope, right? Bay Street is in a milestone year this year, right? We are celebrating 35 years of operation, which is certainly no small feat for a theater anywhere, but especially here on Long Island. What do you think makes this theater and this organization so special?
Well, yes, we have been here 35 years. This is my 13th season as artistic
Wow.
director. It's hard for me to believe. I had a little less gray hair when I was starting. But what makes Bay Street so special is, again, I think it gets back to that intimacy. There's something about this space which just connects the audience to the art and the artists, and connects the artists to the community in a way that's really unique. I mean, we try to work at a very high level. We have an amazing staff and team. I think our productions, look fantastic and
Top notch. Yeah.
top notch. And we I feel we're as good as anyone in terms of doing an amazing production. But I think it's that deep and unusual connection to the stage and the art that makes it so special. And we work really hard, not just on creating great productions, but also in really being a part of our community. We have a huge education department. We have huge community outreach. We work with other community groups, and we're open all year round. We do our main productions like Dear Evan Hansen in the summers, but we're open year round. We have events every weekend. And, I like to say we're kind of like the beating heart of Sag Harbor, and I feel that's really true. So I think that's one of the things that makes us, really special.
Absolutely. I would agree with all of that. I've always known of Bay Street, but it wasn't until I moved a little bit further east that I started to venture
Mm,
out there. And I was very surprised to see how very active it was. I definitely always thought, just from looking online, just kind of the scrolling here or there, I said, oh, it looks like that's just kind of a summer thing, which makes sense for where they are. But once I came to see Fahrenheit 451, I said, wait a
yeah.
minute. I said, this place is hustling and bustling. I said, this is great.
Well, and
Yeah.
just to mention that show, we have a program called Literature Live, and
Okay.
we do a production every fall. It's always around Thanksgiving, but it's specifically a production that we create for schools. It's of
Hmm.
something that's being read in the core curriculum in high schools on Long Island. Sometimes it's a play, sometimes it's a novel, whatever it is, but we do a stage adaptation of it, and we present these shows for schools for free. So if you're a teacher out there and you're listening to
Hmm.
this and you think your students would be interested, if you can get your students to Bay Street, I mean, the school has to pay for busing, but
Hmm.
other than that, we will schedule a performance during the day for your students. It's 90 minutes long, and we do study guides, and we do talkbacks afterwards.
Oh, wow.
And it's a very important program for us, and we serve over 3,000 students a year for free.
Wow.
I mean, obviously, we have to raise money for that, but
Sure,
um,
sure.
but we don't charge the schools or the students, so it is accessible to anyone. And then we also, for 3 weekends in November, including usually Thanksgiving weekend, we do public performances, which you can just buy tickets to. So yeah, we have a show, a great show going on in November. I don't remember if we've announced the show we're
So,
doing
so
this
that sounds
November.
very exciting. I'm dying to know what it is then. I didn't know that was a yearly program that you put
You
on.
know what,
Um,
Kyle? I'm going to share it now. I'm going to tell you.
oh,
I hope my
okay.
marketing team doesn't yell at me. But this year we're going to do To Kill a Mockingbird, and we're really
Oh,
excited
excellent.
about it. It's
Excellent.
one of
Yeah.
the great
Yeah, it's a classic.
works of American literature.
Hmm.
It's about very important stuff. So this year it's going to be To
Yeah.
Kill a Mockingbird.
That's very exciting. Awesome. So tell me more about how you build a season. How do you approach like balancing shows that you think will speak to like that very niche, East End community, but also cultivates an environment where like we're developing new works and kind of workshopping things?
Well, and new works are very important to
Mhm.
me and to us at Bay Street, being a home for new work to be created, which can then go on to other venues. We have a new works festival that we created my very first year here. Every single year that I've been artistic director, we've produced at least one world premiere on the main stage, and that's inclusive of this summer. And we also like to take shows that maybe aren't, it's not the very first production, but a show that's still being worked on, or where the writers are trying stuff, or a director or an artist has a new vision for it. So we really like to be a place where you can only see it at Bay Street. We're not interested in doing work that you can see elsewhere. Listen, the audience out here, they go to the theater, they go to Broadway, they go to off Broadway, they go to the top not for profits. They're sophisticated. So we need to give them something different and unique. And so that's really important to me. I also like the work at Bay Street to be artist driven, and I like to talk to artists that we know or artists that we admire. And this could be writers, directors, designers, actors, whoever, community members who are passionate. And like, what do you want to do? What interests you? What really excites you? And do you have a vision for? And sort of I gather ideas, I gather strands, and then things start to rise up for a given season. And um, sort of bit by bit, it comes together. There's usually one show that we know pretty fast, and I already have that for next year, but I can't tell you that yet. We haven't announced that yet. It's going to be good though.
You're getting too much
Uh,
trouble for that one.
I would get too much trouble for that.
Yeah.
But, and then I see that. And And I also want to give the audience a, a broad experience of theater over the course of a summer. So if you choose to go to everything, all three main stage productions, or four, we usually actually do a bonus show as well. This year it's Joy Behar is doing a new play that she's been
Love it.
working on at the end of the summer with some of her amazing actor friends. Um, but if you go to the shows at Bay Street over the course of the season, you'll see all different visions of what theater can be and what theater is today. So I try to have things complement each other. Of course, I think about the audience and what do they like. But again, it's a sophisticated audience and they want to see things that they can talk about after. Of course, they want to be entertained. Of course, we want people to have a good time. And that's important too. But we want to do work that inspires you and gives you I guess, fodder for your life, to consider and think about. Um, and so that's kind of how I put it together. And I guess, Kyle, one last thing I would say is I really like to think of Bay Street as a top-notch regional theater that happens to only do our main productions in the summer, as
Mm,
opposed to Bay
okay.
Street being a summer theater. There's nothing wrong with being a summer theater. I started my career at the
Right.
New London Bar and Playhouse and very had a great time there in New Hampshire, and it was, got so much great training. But I want our work to be the kind of work you can see at Manhattan Theater Club, the kind of work you can see at La Jolla Playhouse, the kind of work you can see, at the Goodman Theater in Chicago. We're sophisticated, we're smart, and we show you what theater can be.
I like that. Definitely reframing that approach, right? And then the view of that. Good, good. You mentioned before you've served there as the artistic director there for 13 years. What are one of your fondest memories there at Bay Street?
Oh my gosh, there's
Right, that's
so
right, so many.
many. I mean, this is my home now. I love it. I mean, I actually also live in New York. I'm only here full time in the summer and I travel a
Okay.
lot for my freelance directing career, but this is my artistic home. It's where my artistic heart is. I love it out here. Um, there's so many memories. I mean, so many little moments of connection with artists or the staff. One thing I'm remembering right now, there was a production that I directed, and it was at sort of at the tail end of the pandemic. And we were just coming out of the pandemic, but people were still afraid
Yeah, to
to
go out and
gather.
be
They
around each other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we couldn't really. I mean, we did one show indoors, but we had to do it like socially distanced. And, there were only like 80 people in the theater at one. That was sold out. We're a 299
Hmm.
seat theater and 80 seats was sold out at that point.
Yeah.
But so we decided to do an outdoor concert production of Camelot. And it's a show that I had always wanted to do as a director, and I wanted to sort of bring it back to its Celtic roots anyway. And so setting it in this field outdoors beyond the Carvel in Bridgehampton, and we created this sort of environment and that the audience came into, and you were sort of surrounded by trees, and the stage looked like it was all wisteria vines. And we got these actors together, amazing actors. And, we rehearsed for very little time and we did it all outdoors. And the audience, we could only have 200 people and it was still a little socially distanced. But because it was outdoors, people felt safe. And you went in there and it felt like you were stepping into another world. And I have to say that experience of creating theater in an innovative way with these amazing artists and sort of having this communal experience with the audience. That's a really special memory for me.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. I'd love to see pictures of that. That sounds
We
amazing.
do have some,
Um,
actually. We have them
excellent.
somewhere.
Excellent. I'm going to reach out to Ed. I'm sure he's
You
got them. He
should.
can find them. Yeah, that's great. And you mentioned before how many
Oh, can I
other
say one
things you've.
other thing about
Oh,
Camelot that was very
absolutely,
special?
you can. Yeah.
So, there was wonderful young actress who was part of the ensemble on the show, whose name is Hope Hamilton, and Hope Hamilton happens to be Julie Andrews' granddaughter,
Oh,
and Julie came and she talked to the
did
cast
she?
and she talked to me and she came and saw the show. And I mean, for a theater artist, isn't that like
That
just
is incredible.
the dream? So that was also
Yes.
extremely special.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations. Congratulations. That's very cool. Tell me a little bit about some of the other productions you've worked on. So you
Mm.
certainly worked on so many. What would be some of your favorite shows that you've worked on over the years?
I mean, as a director, I've worked on many, many shows. I see on the scroll here. I did direct the
Yeah.
original production of Tick Tick Boom in New York. Helped create that show based on scripts that Jonathan Larson had left after he passed away,
Yeah.
and I worked with David Alburn, the amazing playwright, and Stephen Aremus, the amazing musical director and arranger, to create that show. I did Bat
Yeah.
Boy the musical, which I'm very well known for, Jane Eyre and Golda's
Yeah.
Balcony on Broadway. But I also Disney's Hunchback of Notre Dame is like one of my huge favorites. I did the American premiere and did this whole new production, and that's gone worldwide. In fact, it's reopening. May already have reopened in Japan, in
Cool.
Osaka, like right now. And I'm going back to Japan in September to check up on the show after Bay Street's done. So that was a really special one. And as I said, right now, I've been working a lot in Asia, and I have this new musical that I created in Japan called The Ghost and the Lady, which is about Florence Nightingale and her relationship with a ghost based on a manga by a Japanese writer. And there's all sorts of adventure in it, and there are sword fights, but you learn about Florence Nightingale. That's been a massive hit in Japan, and I'll be working on that more over there. So those are a few of my favorites. But I love new work. I love doing both plays and musicals. I mean, Golda's Balcony is still the longest running one woman show in Broadway history, and it's a play, of course. But those are a few of the highlights.
That's awesome. Wow. How can people keep up with your upcoming projects? Where can they find you online or on social media?
Well, I am on Instagram. I think it's Scott Schwartz Director. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. So I do Instagram. And so I'm accessible through that. My website is under construction, but I will have I had one for a while, but I wanted to freshen it up. So
Yeah.
at some point I'll have a website again.
Excellent. Well, listen, Scott, I thank you so much for spending the time here. This was a really, really fun conversation. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward. You'll be there opening night, right? I
Oh
understand.
yeah. Oh, of
Yes.
course.
I want a picture with the incomparable Scott Schwartz.
Please,
Yeah.
let's get a
Yeah,
picture. All
absolutely. I
right.
can't wait. I'm really
That's the
I'm
plan.
looking forward to seeing the show, and I can't wait to meet you. Yeah.
Thank you, Carlo. It's delightful talking to you, and
Really.
I'm really excited to see you on opening night.
Excellent. Thank you so much for this. Thank you.
Thank you.